This is Matthew with Another World Terraria, where I teach and inspire you on the topics of rare plants and artistic nature displays. Welcome to part 2 of my Amazon Spheres virtual tour. This tropical pitcher plant from the genus Nepenthes is a carnivorous plant. In nature, these dramatic pitchers with flaring ribbed mouths and stunning interior modeling will trap insects, lizards, and anything else that fits inside and can't escape. Here's a quite attractive plant from the genus Labicia with glaucous foliage, which means it has a grayish appearance or coating. I'm not sure of an ID on this beauty, but I'm guessing it's a Gesneriad and might be related to African violets. I love that serrated and pubescent foliage and delightful little flowers. This is a very impressive clump of some kind of begonia. A skyward view of an intricately divided tree fern with delicate foliage, contrasting nicely against the futuristic backdrop of architecture and buildings across the street. I have no idea what this plant is, but it was one of the most striking and memorable plants from the entire exhibit. A blooming begonia metallicolor. This specimen is showing just a small amount of blue iridescence, but under lower light conditions these plants can be much more blue and striking. Regardless, this is a wonderful plant with attractive foliage, shape, and texture. Some kind of blooms in the form of draping tassels. I'm not sure if this is an orchid or maybe something else. Here's a relatively large plant with gorgeous foliage, and it appears to be exhibiting cauliflory, which means that the blooms are coming directly off of the mature stems instead of off of new growth. Here's a larger species of Petrocosmia, which is a Gesneriad that typically lives in rocky, mountainous habitats in China and similar places. Many species create flat rosettes of foliage like the one shown here, often growing flat against rock cliff faces. Here's a wild cluster of orange and salmon-colored blooms from some kind of mystery plant. I really liked this begonia with strange, spiky hairs on lovely green-colored foliage, nestled amidst some Selaginella and other plants. A smaller plant with succulent foliage that created large mats trailing over the ground. Got some little blooms here, too. This plant is Microsorum thailandicum, a bizarre fern from Asia which grows in deep shade and gets iridescent blue sheen on strap-like fronds. A marvelously textured leaf that is probably a species of Alocasia. Here's another artificial tree stump with lots of great epiphytes, including ferns from the genus Microgramma, Adiantum, Perosia, as well as an incredibly beautiful begonia here, and the striking Rhaphidophora cryptantha, which is this vine right back here with netted leaves. Getting back down to the smaller plants, here's a cute little trailing species among the moss and Marchantia liverwort. This is a very large begonia with magnificent leaves contrasting beautifully against the surrounding plants. Some more Alocasia and begonia with remarkable foliage. Both plants are on the large side. A mixture of various ferns, including the phenomenal fertile fronds here, which may be a species of Dorioteris. Here's a neat little display of some limestone-dwelling begonia species. Most of these grow in very alkaline conditions in rocky crevices. A Tillandsia terrarium, which appears to house species that are more on the xeric side, which means that they're from a little bit drier habitats. This living wall was one of my favorite displays in the entire Amazon Spheres, with amazing choice of plant species, great foliage textures and contrast, and a very effective use of vertical space. A close-up of the living wall that we were just looking at with some very bold begonias and a carnivorous plant from the genus Pinguicula. A very close-up image of some liverwort in the genus Marchantia, showing some of the reproductive organs of the plant. Looking upward at some naturalized epiphytic plantings on tree branches, showing lots of ferns, orchids, and other cool stuff. This one appears to be from the genus Perosia, this little fern right here. Very showy pitchers from another species of Nepenthes, which is vining its way through the trees and wrapping around the twigs. An extremely pretty clumping plant with toothy-edged purple foliage. I think this one might be from the family Melastomataceae. This begonia right here is one of my favorite plants from the entire exhibit. That lighter colored ring of modeling and the irregular leaf shape are really dreamy. Too bad it's a larger species best suited to a greenhouse and not really suitable for a terrarium. Among this large mat of Perosia fern right here is a very bold-looking begonia. It's a dwarf species from Africa, Begonia quadriolata, subspecies nimbaensis. I just got this species of begonia recently, and I'm hoping it does well for me. An orchid here with some really nice foliage and some beautiful blooms. Yet another fake tree stump with a good selection of orchids and other plants. A wide shot showing lots of great jungle overgrowth. Note the stems to the right with the mottled coloration. I'm not quite sure what that plant is, but that's really interesting. A nice section of the spheres that has wonderful clumps of tree ferns, palms, and lots of undergrowth, much of which you've seen in close-up shots earlier. A shot looking upward to a higher floor and showing more biophilic design, incorporating vines and other foliage into the architecture. This appears to be a dwarf species of rhododendron or azalea. What a great little plant with beautiful foliage. Looks like it's about to bloom as well. Here's a fern with some unbelievable foliage. This one is in the genus Neolepisaurus. I'm not sure what this mystery plant is with the waffle-like foliage, but it's really cool looking. Here's a tropical conifer of some sort with very unique foliage. Some hot pink mystery flowers popping out of all the greenery. The vividly contrasting veins on this Alocasia species definitely command attention. A very alien-looking fern growing epiphytically, which may be from the genus Terraria, but I'm not certain. I'm assuming that is the fertile frond right here. Some nice palms in the background as well. An amazing specimen of some type of lycopod, possibly from the genus Hupersia. Lycopods are a really cool looking group and are interesting because they are some of the oldest surviving vascular plants. Ones like this even look prehistoric. Here's a spectacular view of the awe-inspiring multi-story green wall with some seriously giant plants. Check out those dramatic pendulant ferns and washboard textured aroids. More epic living wall action made even more dramatic by the fog from the automatic misting system. Look at these gorgeous anthurium blooms as well as the glaucous powdery blue foliage on these phlebodium ferns. There's lots of other great plants as well, including this massive aroid over here and this really cool trailing shrub. A lovely smaller plant on a living wall along one of the walkways, this one with maroon foliage and shocking blooms. A weird-looking little bloom with fluorescent coloration, spots, and fuzz. Very cool stuff. More living walls with plenty of verdant growth and some healthy populations of Nepenthes pitcher plants, although you can't see any pictures in this photo. An absolutely stunning plant, sometimes known as the crocodile fern. The Latin name is Microsorum muscifolium. Here's some nice backlighting shows off the scaly appearance. One thing to note is that this is in the same genus of plants commonly grown in aquariums as Java fern, but this species in general is much larger and doesn't prefer to be as wet. Again, lots of vertical growing space and tons of carnivorous Nepenthes. A big change of pace from tropical jungle to xeric desert habitat with this Mozambique tree aloe, Aloe tongiensis. And some other desert plants, cacti, and succulents at its base. This one is probably one of the weirdest plants in the entire world. It's the very bizarre Welwitschia mirabilis. This plant is endemic to the Namib Desert and is the only species in its genus. Some individual plants in the wild may be over 2,000 years old. Here's a close-up shot of a mossy piece of wood inside a smaller enclosed terrarium display with a few nice miniature orchids from the genus Lepanthes, as well as an Elaphoglossum peltatum fern here. A living wall display with a cool selection of plants. The wall background was made of a textile similar to hygrolon, which you can see right here. Close-ups of some plants on the previously shown living wall, including a few begonia here, as well as some peperomia and some selaginella. Here's an interesting succulent plant of some sort growing at the top of the living wall. And a close-up of a tiny little plant just a few inches across with wonderful tubular orange flowers. That concludes our journey into the amazing Amazon spheres. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe, comment, and like.